Crude oil is currently hitting unprecedented price levels, and Iran just announced it's shutting down the Strait of Hormuz to all unfriendly ships. This has led millions on social media to pose the exact same query. Why can't the U.S. Navy just guide the tankers through? On paper, the strategy seems flawless. Place a $2.5 billion Aegis destroyer alongside every supertanker. Each destroyer is equipped with 96 missile cells and the world's most sophisticated radar system, plus sensors capable of tracking a ballistic warhead in outer space. It seems like a simple fix. Tankers proceed, oil moves, and the crisis is averted. But there's a critical piece of physics missing from this discussion. The navigable channel in the Strait of Hormuz is only 2 nautical miles across. Your 300,000-ton supertanker is vulnerable from 3 sides at once, a scenario the destroyer isn't designed to counter effectively. However, the most frightening danger isn't coming from the air. It's already fixed to the ship's hull, placed by a diver using a closed-circuit rebreather. With no bubbles and no sound signature, he attached a magnetic explosive to the steel hull beneath the surface. Sonar wouldn't have picked him up. The radar system wasn't built to detect such a threat. A $500 charge is now attached to 300,000 long tons of crude oil. For anyone who believes escorting is just a matter of positioning, this video will shatter that illusion. Welcome to Navy Decoded, where we explain how the planet's mightiest warship turns into a vulnerability in a confined waterway. Hit subscribe because the numbers here get very grim. The United States Navy isn't theorizing about convoy escorts at Hormuz. They have real-world experience. The mission was called Operation Earnest Will, and its lessons are still felt today. From July 24, 1987 to September 26, 1988, it was America's biggest naval convoy effort since the Second World War. To authorize a U.S. Navy escort during the Iran-Iraq War, Kuwaiti tankers were reflagged with the American flag for passage through the Persian Gulf. VLCC warships traveled with the tankers tasked with one simple objective: ensure safe passage. On April 14, 1988, the frigate USS Samuel B. Roberts FFG-58 was on that very type of escort mission. Its radar was on, weapons were hot, and the sailors were watching for planes and small attack craft. That's when a mine exploded under the ship. An Iranian MO-8 contact mine, a forerunner to the modern SATFO-2, tore a 15-foot gash in the hull, fractured the keel, and swamped the engine room instantly. 10 sailors were hurt. The vessel meant to guard the convoy suddenly needed rescuing itself. What followed was 13 months and $89.5 million in repairs. 4 days after that, the Navy initiated Operation Praying Mantis, the biggest American surface battle since World War II. The answer wasn't to add more escorts. Instead, it was to hit Iranian naval assets and oil facilities directly. The takeaway from 1988 was unmistakable. You can't fix the escort dilemma with more escort ships. You fix it by eliminating the danger entirely. 38 years on, the physical realities of the strait remain the same. This is why it's crucial to grasp what's being protected. The Very Large Crude Carrier, or VLCC, is the lifeblood of the world's energy transport. It stretches over 1,000 feet long and is wider than a football field, carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil and displacing up to 300,000 long tons. Consider what that amount of weight does to its agility. A fully loaded VLCC takes several nautical miles to come to a stop. Its turning circle is thousands of feet wide. Traveling at its top speed of around 15 knots, the vessel requires minutes just to begin altering its course. And at 15 knots, the VLCC is traveling at under half the speed of the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer that's accompanying it. Next, consider the hull. A VLCC is built for commerce, not conflict. Its steel plating, in some places just half an inch thick, is designed for structural strength, not to survive an attack. There's no armor and no blast-proof compartments. There are no damage control crews on board trained to handle enemy fire. A single anti-ship missile breaching that hull would explode inside a steel tank holding 2 million barrels of combustible hydrocarbons. Picture yourself guarding an 18-wheel fuel tanker as it navigates a tight alleyway with gunmen on the roofs above. You're in an armored SUV next to it. While you can engage the gunmen, you can't physically intercept a round aimed at the fuel truck. You can't force the tanker to speed up, shrink, or make a sharp turn. Your own armor keeps you safe, but it does nothing for the asset you're protecting. Prior to Operation Epic Fury, dozens of these supertankers passed through Hormuz daily, transporting some 20 million barrels of crude, over $1 billion in value each day. That flow of traffic has now stopped. The real question is if escorts can bring it back. To find the answer, we have to examine the geographical layout of the strait. This is the point where the Arleigh Burke destroyer, the pride of the surface navy, starts to show its weaknesses. Not due to any design defect, but because the terrain negates every advantage it was built to have. The Aegis destroyer has the most powerful air defense radar on any ship. Legacy vessels use the AN/SPY-1, which has a detection radius of over 200 nautical miles for aerial threats. The latest Flight 3 models are equipped with the AN/SPY-6, an active electronically scanned array that extends detection beyond 300 nautical miles and can track more than 600 targets at once. Both systems give 360-degree coverage, relaying targeting information to SM-2 and SM-6 interceptors to handle threats from vast distances. However, there's a fundamental aspect of radar that many people miss. Radar is simply a form of light, specifically microwave energy, and it follows the very same principle. It moves in a direct path, unable to wrap around mountains or arch over ridgelines. When a solid obstacle gets between the antenna and the target, the beam is blocked completely. This creates a radar shadow, an area where the sensor detects nothing at all. Out on the open ocean, no obstacles block the view to the horizon. As a result, the radar detects everything. But put that antenna near a coastline with mountains, and each peak, cliff, and island casts a blind spot in its coverage. The sensor isn't failing. The physical landscape defeats its technology. The open sea provides an advantage. Hormuz lacks distance, which translates directly into time. At its tightest point, the Strait of Hormuz is 21 nautical miles wide, though vessels don't have that full width for navigation. A traffic separation system restricts commercial ships to a 6 nautical mile wide channel, a 2-mile inbound lane, a 2-mile buffer, and a 2-mile outbound lane. Tankers must proceed single file through a waterway that's slimmer than runways at major international airports. Now consider the geography on both sides of this channel. The strait's Iranian coast is rugged with sheer cliffs plunging straight into the sea. Iran has also placed mobile transporter erector launchers within tunnel networks that have been bored through. The mountains, especially on Qashm Island, located in the strait's center just 5 nautical miles away from the shipping lane. From these tunnels, the Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missile, a Fateh 110 variant with a warhead over 1,400 pounds, launches at more than Mach 3. The terrain favors the attacker. A ballistic missile follows an arcing trajectory, not a direct path climbing high before descending on its target at a sharp angle. The missile's journey from a hidden tunnel launch to a tanker's hull 5 nautical miles away takes less than 60 seconds. Yet flight time isn't the crucial factor. Detection time is. The true weapon here is the masking effect of the terrain. The destroyer's radar line of sight to the launch site is blocked by the mountains. The Spy-1 can't spot the missile until it crests the ridgeline. Once it shows up on radar, the system needs to classify it, sorting it from clutter reflecting off canyon walls, islands, and the many commercial ships in the strait. Out at sea, clutter is scarce. In Hormuz, it's abundant. Even with an instant lock and an SM-6 launch from the Aegis system, the interceptor requires 10 to 15 seconds to get to the engagement point. The window for error is just a few seconds. A single delay in classification from a false return means the missile hits the tanker before the interceptor can connect. Iran's Noor, a licensed version of the Chinese C-82, poses a similar threat but from another vector. This is a subsonic cruise missile that travels at Mach 0.9, flying extremely low in a sea-skimming approach. On the open sea, a destroyer's radar can detect a sea skimmer from 15 to 20 nautical miles out. But in the strait, terrain masking shortens that detection window to just 5 to 7 nautical miles. At Mach 0.95 nautical miles is about 20 seconds. Out on the open water, an Aegis destroyer controls the engagement geometry. Inside Hormuz, the geometry controls the destroyer. Yet, there's something missing from the public conversation. While all the destroyer's sensors are scanning the skies, the greatest danger is already lurking underwater. On June 13, 2019, in the Gulf of Oman, near the Strait of Hormuz, 2 tankers were assaulted. The Marshall Islands-flagged Front Altair and the Panamanian-flagged Kokuka Courageous. Both ships' hulls were breached, both erupted in fire, both crews had to abandon ship. America's military later shared infrared footage of an IRGC Gods-class patrol boat alongside the Kokuka Courageous post-explosion, with personnel seen taking an unexploded device off its hull. The U.S. concluded that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had affixed limpet mines, magnetic explosives, to the ship's hulls under the waterline. A limpet mine isn't a complex device, it's just a shaped charge with strong magnets on one side. A diver or someone from a small boat simply attaches it to the steel hull beneath the surface. The magnets stick, the timer counts down, the diver vanishes. This is the physics behind why a limpet mine is so deadly underwater, yet completely invisible to the $2.5 billion in sensors on the destroyer's mast. Water is about 800 times denser than air and almost impossible to compress. When a charge explodes in the air, the blast expands in every direction, quickly losing power as it moves through a compressible space. However, when a limpet mine explodes against a hull underwater, the surrounding water offers no give. Unable to absorb the energy by expanding, the water transfers the shockwave straight into the steel hull with virtually no energy, lost, concentrating the entire blast into a tiny area. The destruction isn't over after the first explosion. The explosion forms a high-pressure bubble of gas, which is encased by the dense, unyielding water. The bubble pulsates, expanding and collapsing repeatedly. Every cycle pounds the hull with another pressure wave. If the bubble's collapse is lopsided and near the hull, it creates a concentrated jet of water, a liquid spear moving fast enough to blast through internal bulkheads. Just a few dozen pounds of explosives below the waterline can cause destruction that hundreds of pounds detonated in open air could never match. The hull of a VLCC, just half an inch of commercial-grade steel, stands no chance against these physics. This leads to a cost imbalance, but not the one you're thinking of. The true imbalance isn't financial. It's a matter of what they can do. An Olympic mine is only a few $100s. For a warship underway, there is simply no defense against it, not for any amount of money. No system aboard an Arleigh Burke is built to spot, follow, or stop a combat diver nearing its hull on the open sea. The imbalance isn't about costly versus inexpensive. It's about having a weapon versus having no counter. The Arleigh Burke is equipped with two sonar systems. Its ANSQS-53, an active sonar mounted in the bow dome, actively pings the water with sound pulses to hunt for submarines by interpreting the echoes. Its second system, the ANSQR-19TAC, is a passive towed array that trails almost a mile back, listening for engine sounds and water displacement from massive targets weighing thousands of tons. Both of these sonars are tailored specifically for fighting submarines. Neither one is engineered to find an 80-kilogram human diver on a bubble-free rebreather moving silently with the Strait's natural current. While the Navy has diver detection sonars like the Sandine Sentinel for this very threat, they're stationary systems bolted to piers on the harbor floor to guard anchored ships in a fixed area. A destroyer moving through the strait at speed is not equipped with a dedicated sonar for detecting swimmers. The ship has no instrument fine-tuned to locate a person in a wetsuit hiding under a tanker's hull. The priciest combat platform in the surface fleet is completely sightless against the most inexpensive threat in warfare. Any one of these three threats is manageable alone. Combined, they are fatal. The tanker is unable to turn speed up or withstand an attack. Its hull is more fragile than the body of a standard pickup truck. Each tanker passing through Hormuz becomes a slow-moving, explosive-filled target crawling through a channel just 2 nautical miles across. The destroyer's protection from the air is compromised. The surrounding terrain drastically shortens the time to detect a threat. In the narrow strait, radar clutter makes it difficult to quickly identify hostile targets. An anti-ship ballistic missile approaching at Mach 3 from 5 nautical miles away gives the crew under a minute from first alert to impact. And the interceptor missile itself requires nearly that entire window just to reach the point of engagement. The very geometry that makes Aegis superior on the open sea turns into a weakness inside a canyon. And the destroyer offers no protection to the tanker from beneath. Its billion-dollar sonar is tuned for submarines, not for divers. Its radar scans the heavens, not for magnetic mines. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer was designed to dominate the open seas where response times are counted in minutes. In that environment, threats come from expected directions, allowing the ship to dictate the terms of engagement. But put that very ship in a 2-nautical-mile channel bordered by mountains concealing missile batteries navigating over shallow water that impairs its sonar, and it is stripped of its 3 greatest assets. It loses time, space, and clear sensor readings. For this reason, Operation Epic Fury started not with an escort mission. Instead, it began with attacks. The U.S. Navy analyzed the escort problem and came to the identical conclusion it had in 1988 following the incident with the USS Samuel B. Roberts. The way to secure a strait is not by trying to defend vessels within it. You secure it by eliminating the dangers that create the risk. And this leads to the realization that completely changes the first threat vector. That supertanker, the slow, unprotected, and vulnerable target, isn't the casualty of this fight. It's the cause. 20 million barrels of oil, daily cargo worth more than $1 billion. The physical realities of the strait rendered any escort attempt futile. The economics of that waterway made conflict unavoidable. America didn't launch an attack on Iran for political reasons. It attacked because the geography presented no other option to ensure the oil supply continued. If this analysis has changed your perspective on naval strength, subscribe to Navy Decoded because you'll now have the key insight. So when you next hear someone in a discussion, a comment thread, or on the news, ask, why can't the Navy simply escort the tankers? Think back to the USS Samuel B. Roberts. Picture the 15-foot gash in its side. Recall that the very warship meant to guard the convoy ended up needing to be rescued by it. The laws of physics are the same. The geography remains unchanged. The strait is still 21 nautical miles across with a shipping channel only 2 miles wide. The mountains continue to conceal missile launchers. Water remains 800 times denser than air, and a diver carrying a $500 magnetic mine is undetectable by any sensor on a $2.5 billion destroyer. The only thing that has changed is the question itself. The debate is no longer about whether to provide an escort. It's now a choice between spending $500 to plant a magnetic mine on a tanker's hull or spending hundreds of billions to tear down the entire military apparatus of the country controlling the strait. The United States chose its path. Whether that calculation was sound is a question Navy Decoded will let you answer for yourself.